From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is U.S. Farm Report.
Welcome to U.S. Farm Report this weekend. I'm Tyne Morgan, and here's what's in store over the next 60 minutes. The crisis in Ukraine continues as trade in the Black Sea has come to nearly a halt, and wheat prices soared to a 14-year high this week. Our marketing roundtables are from the CHS Ag Industry Day in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Well, winter wheat conditions in the U.S. continue to deteriorate as drought now covers nearly 60% of the continental U.S.
That's the highest we've seen since we were coming off the peak of the 2012 drought a decade ago.
And in John's world,
right to repair is getting more complicated.
Now for the news. Well, what a wild week for wheat as prices soared to levels not seen in nearly 14 years. The markets were fueled by growing fears over whether farmers in Ukraine will even be able to plant a crop this year amid a Russian invasion on their country. Right now, Ukraine ports are closed to commercial traffic, and there are reports of commercial ships being attacked in the area. That's cutting into the wheat supply, pushing already high prices due to inflation and supply chain issues even higher.
When you look at the map of Ukraine, their biggest part of their wheat belt is definitely on that eastern border where Russia has invaded. And that's where their wheat production predominantly is. And then it's transported to the southwestern part of the country, closer to the Black Sea for transportation.
Well, the Black Sea region, a major area for trade, but with issues in Ukraine, that means now it's more of a charades of trade in the global scale. Several countries appear to be switching their shipments in order to avoid Ukraine right now. USDA reporting Wednesday a sale of 264,000 metric tons of soybeans to unknown destinations. Of that, 198,000 is old crop, another 266,000 metric tons of beans for delivery to China, with 198,000 of old crop beans. Export sources telling Reuters that Beijing actually booked at least 5 cargoes of U.S. old crop beans for delivery between April and May. Earlier this week, China was rumored to have purchased at least 10 cargoes of U.S. corn to replace shipments from Ukraine. One trader saying that every day the Ukrainian ports are closed, it takes 100,000 metric tons off the world market. And as U.S. commodity prices surge, University of Illinois economist Scott Irwin is warning about a global grain supply shortage and its potential dire effects. Now he's urging the Biden administration to open up the Conservation Reserve Program, or CRP, and its 22 million acres this cropping season to help stem the crisis.
I think we need to be now, under these extraordinary wartime circumstances, be thinking outside the box. And one outside of the box suggestion I made yesterday on Twitter was maybe consider opening up the Conservation Reserve Program acreage for 1-year cropping. It may not be practical, may not be legal, but my point is to really try to get people thinking.
Now, we asked Dan Bossie of Ag Resource Company about this, and he's not sure if there's even a lever that anyone can pull in Washington in order to pull CRP acres into production without congressional action. And if Congress does take action, it would take longer than 30 days for Congress to respond. But by Friday, soft red winter wheat prices had soared to a new all-time high. That's after several limit-up trading sessions sent prices above 2008 levels. Russia and Ukraine combined supply about 30% of the world's wheat exports. Right now, Ukraine ports are closed to commercial traffic, and there are reports of commercial ships being attacked in the area. That's cutting into the wheat supply, pushing already high prices due to inflation and supply chain issues even higher. Reuters reported Thursday U.S. President Joe Biden's administration is mulling waiving the nation's fuel blending mandates, and it could help stabilize surging prices for key food ingredients like corn and soy oil. The report says the White House is worried about the impact of consumer food inflation. But commodity groups fired back, saying this isn't a food versus fuel debate. 6 groups, including national corn growers and national sorghum producers, sending a letter to the White House Friday urging the administration to allow the sale of E15 year-round. The groups say the move would ease the impact of oil market disruptions caused by the Ukraine crisis, as fuel price inflation is happening at a quicker pace than food price inflation. Well, soybean supplies in South America seem to be growing even tighter. That's as Ag Resource Company's latest projection puts the Brazil crop under 120 million metric tons. Check out these crop pictures that we have received from Brazil and the country's bean crop. The crop obviously impacted by drought. Brazil, Argentina, and Paraguay account for more than 50% of the world's soybean supply. Last summer, USDA expected South America crop to be a record, but Ag Resource Company just came out with its latest estimate, pointing to Brazil's soybean crop to fall to 119.5 million metric tons this year. And he says Ag Resource's latest crop tour shows soybean yields in the Rio Grande do Sul are off anywhere between 45 and 60%. Well, as we mentioned earlier, drought conditions growing worse in the U.S. We'll have a check of weather next.
Get in the game and be part of the 2022 Bracket Busters Challenge presented by Case IH. It's farmer versus farmer for a chance to win the $1,000 top prize. Head to agweb.com today to fill out your bracket.